Hello and welcome. I decided to do something a little different, and I thought I'd ask, can you beat Final Fantasy X using only Aeons? Now, for the sake of time, I only included boss fights because I checked my save and it's 33 hours. And all you really have to know about normal enemy fights is that Aeons will just completely wreck them, and that you should use those fights to make sure your Aeons always have their overdrives for the boss fights. So let's just jump into it. So the first 4 boss fights, you actually don't have any access to Aeons. So they're pretty much just, tutorial bosses, and you beat them however the game tells you to beat them. The first 2 you can't actually die to, as far as I know. The first boss, it just takes a quarter of your HP every time, and the second boss takes half of your HP every time. Once you hit click, you can actually start dying to bosses. Same for Truss, but he's also a tutorial boss, which teaches you commands. After him, you will finally get your first Aeon, which is Valefor. You will want to make sure to grab the destruction spheres in each cloister if you're going to go for Anima later, but we'll get into that when we get there. Also, you'll want to grab the energy blast from Besaid, which is another overdrive for Valefor. Now, our first boss fight with an Aeon is Sinspawn, and I was able to kill him by using Valefor's overdrive, using Thunder on one of the Sin Scales, and then using Valefor's overdrive again. I know I'm going to mispronounce this, but the next boss is Sinspawn Echuilles, and you're not allowed to use Aeons on him, so depending on how strict you want to be, this would probably be a failure point, as you cannot use Aeons. So technically, this is where the run would stop, but if you want to, just say if you're not allowed to use Aeons and it doesn't count and you can keep going, then keep going. But I will say that Blind is very, very strong against him. Now, as far as I know, this is optional, so you don't have to do it, but I mean, AP is AP. For this one, I did have to actually use a strategy. I would pretty much spam Sonic Wings until I saw that it wouldn't give me an extra turn, and on that turn I'd use Fire instead. I just repeated that until I could overdrive. Even if I started with an overdrive, I think I still would have needed to spam Fire or Sonic Wings a few times. Also, at this point, it could also be considered not using only Aeons, but I would make sure to defend with each character before switching in Yuna and summoning an Aeon. I just felt like it was sort of necessary to make sure that my team wasn't super underpowered for the fights where Aeons just weren't available. This next fight is Sinspawn Geneaux? I don't know how to pronounce that. I just spammed Sonic Wings until I could kill him with my overdrive. That was about it. Not much to say about the next fight. No Aeons allowed again. Pretty much just thunder the machine until you can pop the thing's head off and kill it. That's it. Next up is the Chocobo Eater, and by this point, this was the second boss that I needed a strategy on. I summoned Valefor. I'd cast Fire, then Shield, Fire 3 times, then Shield again, Fire 2 times, and then Overdrive. Then I summon Evrae, I went fire, shield, fire, fire, boost, overdrive. I think if you already had your overdrive at this point, you just have to fire, shield, fire, fire, and then overdrive. Or you could just overdrive straight away, I'm not exactly sure. Next boss is Sinspawn, I don't know how you pronounce it, I want to say Gui. He's really simple, it just Baleflower's overdrive, Ifrit, I used fire and then overdrive. He went to a second phase. I did kind of mess up and use Fira from Seymour, but once I figured I could summon, I summoned Ifrit again, and I spammed fire. I think if you shield, you can reduce the venom damage, and maybe make up for the 1400, yeah, that I did with Seymour. And then just overdrive whenever you have it, and that should easily finish him. I finished him off with a meteor strike though. The Extractor is another no Aeon boss. Pretty much you just want to hit him and heal up whenever you need to. My Spear Morph strategy didn't work out, but in a good way. While trying to use the strategy, I just pretty much killed him. I found out you can use Sonic Wings, Arrow Spark, or Meteor Strike to tell what element he is, and then if he is Blizzard, you'd want to switch to Ifrit and use Ifrit's Overdrive. If it's casting Water, then you'd want to switch to Ixion and use its Overdrive. And then of course use Baleflower because it's non-elemental, so it will do major damage anyways. And besides that, not really all that crazy. The crawler boss fight is sort of a no Aeon fight, in that if the negator is up, you cannot use Aeons or magic. So pretty much all you gotta do is use Waka or Riku to mix something to destroy the negator, and then you can start using Aeons on the crawler. Pretty much once the crawler was able to be attacked by Aeons, I used Baleflower's Overdrive, Ifrit's Overdrive. I healed myself so that I could take the mana beam hit, and then I overdrived it again with Ifrit. I did a bunch of other things, but it turns out I just needed to attack once to kill him, so that's not important. Although I think if I took another mana beam hit, I probably could have gotten an overkill on the crawler, which gives more items if you get an overkill. Before this boss fight, I actually did a lot of grinding in the Thunder Plains. I think I got 10 spear levels for each character. I did use Aeons, I just used the whole defend and then swap defend and swap to, summon Aeons. So there's that. But I will say I kinda got a little stubborn later on, and I think I used Flee on every single battle after that. That wasn't required, of course. Now for the actual boss fight, Seymour. Pretty much this one I just made sure to use Ifrit's Overdrive. And then that threw him into using Anima. So then I used Ixion's Overdrive. I healed myself with Thundara, did an attack, and by that point I was able to use my Overdrive again with Ixion, which killed Anima, or didn't kill Anima, but got it really close to being dead. I made sure to summon Baleflower and finish Anima off without using my Overdrive. I had to make sure to save my Overdrive because Seymour will just start blasting you once he comes back out. For the Wendigo, I pretty much used Ifrit's Overdrive, and that killed the two Guado. I think I got very lucky because the Wendigo missed me 2 or 3 times, and I was able to overdrive again with Ifrit. and then I summon Ixion and Baleful and use their overdrives. But I'd say if I wasn't lucky with the second Evrae overdrive, a Shiva overdrive should have been able to do it. Evrae is another no Aeon boss fight, so for the second time we're just going to skip over that one. Isaru's Aeons. By this point you have Bahamut, so you can pretty much just wreck all of his Aeons. Whenever he summons Bahamut, just bashed on him a bunch with Shiva, since he only uses Mega Flare, and you can just shield that and heal yourself back up. Evrae Atlanta is another no Aeon boss fight, but luckily all you need are Phoenix Downs. Just use those on him and you win. Another Seymour fight. This time it's Seymour Natus and Mortabody. This one, another restriction that I kinda went by was I used haste on my party just to switch them out faster, but I don't think that has too much of a change on the battle. And with this fight, Seymour will banish your Aeons. Pretty much you just want to Baleful, Bahamut, Shiva, overdrive, and that kills them. This next fight was honestly my biggest challenge up to this point. Like I said, I've been running from every fight since the Thunder Plains, so I don't think I was under-leveled, but I definitely could have used more levels. Through lots of trial and error, I did figure it out, and one thing I found was if you use your overdrive, he will kill you. He uses Blast Punch, and then he either haymakers or just normal hits you depending on how much health you have, and that will always kill you from what I've seen. Also, something else that you may say didn't actually stick to the only Aeon rule, but I did use Steel with Riku to get Fire Gems to teach Ifrit and Shiva Firaga. Also, I taught Bahamut Focus, but you just use regular spheres for that. I think it's, I want to say magic spheres for that. Now to the fight, it took me forever, so I'm gonna just quickly say what I did. I summoned Ifrit, used Firaga, Shield, Firaga, Overdrive. Then I summoned Bahamut, used Focus 3 times, because I found out focusing doesn't cause him to go into his Blast Punch thing after the Overdrive from Ifrit. Then I Overdrive with Bahamut, and summoned Baleful, Overdrive, Ixion, Overdrive. With Shiva, I don't know if it was necessary, but I shielded twice, and then attacked once, and used Overdrive for an overkill. I tried it again, it didn't work the second time, but he was just short, so I think I got a critical a few times, the one time I won. Also, by this point, well, after this boss fight, you can actually get Yojimbo, and for anyone who doesn't know, Yojimbo can one-shot almost every boss in the game. So I will not be doing that, but I will still at least give a counter on how many times you'd have to Zanmato, or if you can or not, on the next few bosses. The next fight, I can't cover because for this fight, Seymour Flux, it was sort of a strategy. I don't think it really was. I feel like there was a certain order you had to summon your Aeons to make sure that you killed him before you could like cross cleave or Lance of Atrophy your group. Pretty much I would summon them and then just overdrive. So this was the order: Bahamut, Shiva, Ixion, Ifrit, and Baleful. Also, if you had Yojimbo at this point, you'd have to get a Zanmato on your first try because of Seymour's banish mechanic.
And stay up there.
The Sanctuary Keeper, not much to talk about. Just use Bahamut and you can get 2 overdrives out before he can kill you. Just have 1 overdrive ready when you enter the fight and then just get hit enough to use your second. Pretty easy. If you use Yojimbo, just 1 Zanmato. The Spectral Keeper, I don't think he's all that hard. I got Bahamut, I used his overdrive, then I was lucky, was able to use Shiva's overdrive twice because he missed me. and then I use Ixion's Overdrive. But honestly, even if you didn't get lucky and get 2 Overdrives with 1 Aeon, you still have 2, maybe 3 other Aeons to use. Also, Yojimbo, 1 Zanmato. And here we are, the worst fight in the game for me. The biggest problem I had here was the fact that she had 3 phases. Luckily though, the first 2 phases are super predictable, and the 3rd phase doesn't matter if you can handle the first 2 phases correctly. So a quick breakdown of my strategy was, for her first 2 forms, she'll always do her main attack and then an absorb. Sometimes she'll get a double attack where she'll do the attack and absorb, or absorb and attack depending on what our pattern is. So pretty much you'd always want to make sure to shield her absorbs and attack any other time when you know she's going to just do a normal attack. So here's what I did. I summoned Veilfor. I would alternate between my attack and shield. Whenever Veilfor got to 1 hit left, I would dismiss her. And then I would summon Evrae, and same for him. I would shield on absorbs and attack when I knew she was going to attack next turn. I'd use Firaga to heal myself when I was low, instead of attacking, still shielding on absorbs. And I'd repeat that until she got into phase 2. And then I'd keep using Evrae in phase 2 until he was low, and dismiss him. Then I summoned Ixion, and unfortunately Ixion gets bullied very hard in the 2nd form. But same strategy, attacking on attack, shielding on absorbs. When Aeon is on the last hit, you dismiss, summon Shiva. Same thing as Evrae and Aeon, you just attack on attack, shield on absorb, heal yourself when you're low. Luckily though, Shiva, unlike the other ones, gets double turns. 3 of my normal attacks I actually used Firaga instead. That threw her into her 3rd form, while my Shiva was still out, and I immediately overdrive with Shiva. And then I would summon Veilfor Overdrive, Evrae Overdrive, Ixion Overdrive, Bahamut Overdrive. And that killed her. By the way, this took me over an hour to beat doing that strategy. Not like to figure it out, to actually use that strategy on her. It took an hour to beat her. Now the Yojimbo question, it's hard to answer as I didn't do it, but I believe it would take 3 Zanmatos because it wouldn't kill her outright, it would just make her shift into her next phase, and then on the 3rd phase it would just kill her. But I feel like the absorbs would kill you before you could get 3 off. You'd have to get pretty much 3 in a row, I believe, to be able to do it. So good luck with that. Alright, for this one, I kind of lumped them all together, but it's technically 4 bosses in one, maybe 5, actually, if you count the extra enemy protecting the core. But anyways, it's Sin's left fin, his right fin, Geneaux, and Sin's core, and then Overdrive Sin. But I believe you can just, I can't remember, I think you can just attack the core. You don't even really need to attack the Geneaux guy. Either way, by this point, I had actually gotten the Magus Sisters, another broken rule, I guess, for the only Aeon run, because I did technically use my party to capture creatures on Mount Gagazet, but I thought that as I'm only capturing them, not killing them, and I grabbed them. So pretty much I just used them for this fight, but I would expect Aeon Overdrives would be fine at this point, if you don't feel like getting the Mega Sisters, or not counting for this. And if you're using Yojimbo, it would take 4 Zanmatos, depending on if you can go past Geneaux or not. If you can't, then it would take 5 Zanmatos. Another question of, does this break the rule or not, is if you go to an optional boss who doesn't allow Aeons, does that count against you or not at all? Either way, I went back to Baj Temple to fight Geo's Gano and got Anima. Also grabbed Lulu's Onion Knight so that Shiva's attacks could break damage limit, including her overdrive, once you put the crest in it. I think I also grabbed Yuna's Nirvana, which requires you to capture creatures in comm lands too. But I didn't use Balefoure's overdrive that I can remember after this, so it didn't really matter. But with Seymour Omnis, I pretty much just had it so when he switched into Firaga, I switched to Shiva and used my overdrive, and it did 84k and one-shot him. So it's pretty easy. If you're using Ojimbo, it's one Zanmato. Now for the last boss of the game, Braska's final Aeon. Well, sort of the last boss fight, but we'll get to that in a minute. For this fight, I pretty much just used the Maga Sisters until they died, and then I used Anima, Bahamut, and Shiva's overdrive. He does have 2 phases, but I mean, if you do all that, it doesn't matter. Although if you're using Yojimbo, 2 Zanmatos. Now the reason I wasn't going to include this, because you have full life the whole time, so you can't actually die no matter what you do. And although I didn't, you could actually use your Aeons, like as you summon the next one, just use the same one and summon all the other ones, and then you'll have to fight that last one by yourself no matter what. But for the Yevon fight, you can't use Aeons because they're all gone. You kill them all. But quick easy fight for him would be just zombie him and use a Phoenix down, and he's dead. I cannot say for sure, but from what I know, I believe you'd have to have 1 Zanmato for each Aeon you have. So if you didn't get the Maga Sisters or Anima, then you would need 5 Zanmatos. If you got them, you'd need 7, and then you'd have to kill Yojimbo. I honestly think the Defender X and the Yunalesca fight probably would have been easier if I would have actually did any fighting in between bosses. But after the Thunder Plains, I just kind of quit. The other bosses were a little difficult, but again, grinding would have fixed that easily. Maybe Yunalesca still would have been difficult because of her phases and her absorb, doing, I believe it does half your health, no matter what. Your max health, not your current health. So if you had 4,000 health, it would do 2,000 damage every time, no matter what. Also, breaking the rules, I don't think it was that big of a deal because the hardest fight in the game, in my opinion, was Yunalesca, and you can't even get access to Anima or the Maga Sisters before her. Also, if you want to get to cheating, I would count Yojimbo as cheating because his one-shot, but you know, to each their own. So the question, can you beat Final Fantasy X with only Aeons? Yes. Well, that's the end of the video. I just quick wanted to ask if there's any other can you beat blank with only blank or something like that that you'd like to see, because I had an idea for something, but it's already been done. So now I gotta figure out something else. Having trouble. But thanks for watching.